Hi, today I'll be talking about the topics of Module 1, the different iterations of the student personnel point of view literature, the similarities and differences, as well as some other concepts. Something that is extremely apparent to me in all three versions is that there's this overall purpose of literature that is explained. And the purpose is to clearly define the different challenges facing students, the role of higher education personnel, and how that comes together. Another constant theme is this idea of impacting the student holistically. So, not just on the basis of academic curriculum or matriculation, but on other levels as well. Something that I found really interesting is that the literature itself was formulated using the perspectives of professionals within and outside the institution. So, yes, you had your academic and student affairs professionals coming together, but you also had community influence, which created this really broad and wide encompassing piece of literature that impacted our students. With the 1937 iteration, there is an introduction to the issues facing students, which guide the purpose of identifying a list of 23 objectives. This iteration really tasked the higher education professional to evaluate their organizational structure and their programs and make any necessary modifications now that they have this list of challenges. The 1949 iteration expands on the original list of ideas or challenges and adds some. So it adds the challenges of higher costs, technology, partnerships, and collaboration, which would all need to be addressed. This version also expands on the 23 objectives by providing a detailed explanation on why they are important. It also organizes the list into kind of high-arching objectives, which contain sub-objectives. This version also mentions for the first time democracy, globalization, and social problems. And there's an emphasis now on preparing the students to be contributors to society for the benefit of the nation, not just for themselves. With this said, this iteration also tasks the students with taking accountability of their own college experience. There's a use of directed pronouns which weren't used in the 1937 iteration, such as his or hisself. This iteration encourages the defining of the roles of the academic professional and the student. It's important to mention that the 1949 revision comes shortly after the Truman Commission, which tasked the nation with addressing the issues of access, affordability, and globalization, which is why it was mentioned in the 1949 iteration. The 1987 revision confirmed the need for this type of literature, and it confirmed the need for addressing these challenges. However, it presented it in a much more concise manner. It is the shortest of the three pieces of literature. I think that it's important to note that this piece of literature is very relevant today. And it's always good to have a written and clear and uniform idea of the role of higher education professionals. It's extremely useful and it helps us to stay accountable even as time changes. We have a clear understanding that students have needs and that we have a responsibility as professionals to address those needs. With that said, there are a lot of things that the literature does not address, which is something that I would address in a revision of 2019 if we were to have one. But I think that it really becomes apparent that there is things missing as we progress further into the 21st century. There's a whole slew of issues facing students now regarding inclusivity, diversity, orientation, just to name a few, that impact their college experience and should be addressed. I believe that in the revision, it should go more into detail on how student affairs professionals should work cohesively with academic affairs professionals, because I think oftentimes there is a disconnect between these two roles, and it's to the detriment of the students in many cases. I think there also should be a closer look into government involvement as far as improving access and affordability, especially as tuition costs continue to rise. Lastly, I would look into detailing more about technology as a way to increase access. Those are my ideas for a 2019 revision. If you guys have any questions about anything that I've mentioned, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you for listening.